guys, and welcome back to another book video. Today we're going to be talking about our March reading wrap-ups. So, yeah, all of our good March reading stats.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. For you numbers people.
Yes. I have to say, so these are some of my favorite videos. Just because I like the numbers. And
I like to run the numbers.
Yeah, like I really want to be, like, someday I want to be a reader who has, like, okay, like Books and Law, where we have 50 books that I read in 1 month, and then I can have like a whole spreadsheet that I can break down and just, oh my gosh, it'd be so much fun. But yeah, I love making the graphs and stuff for this.
I think if I just had nothing but time to read, I don't think I could read 50 books.
No.
But you know, some of them, when they do their audiobooks, and I never thought that this is probably how, they run it at like 1.5 speed or 2 times speed. And I'm like, how do you understand?
You get used to it.
Huh.
Because I used to think that too, but now anytime I listen to audiobooks, they're at least 1.8.
Really?
2. Yeah.
Huh.
So.
I don't do a lot of audiobooks either, though, so maybe that's, I don't know. Anyway.
Beside the point.
Obviously, Grant, imagine that we went on a tangent. Okay, so. But here's the numbers.
The numbers.
For March.
Do you want to go first since it was your birthday month?
I can go first since it was my birthday month. Oh, you know what? By the way, happy Easter to all of you who participate.
Yes.
Just that plug-in because I just remembered when this video is going to air. So.
Oh yeah, it does come out Easter.
Happy Easter for all of you.
Happy
Easter. Oh, look at you and the puns.
Oh, of course.
Just count on her for the puns and stuff. Yeah, I'll go first. Okay. So, we start with, I read 5 books this month. So for my average page, that was 1,657 total pages for an average of 331-ish. I rounded down. 331 pages each. My shortest book was C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters. And my longest book was Children of Blood and Bone, was my longest at like 537 pages, I think it was. And of those 5 books, I had 3 5-star reads. I know, it was a very good month for me to read.
Apparently.
It was. 1 4-star read and 1 3-star read. And I actually might have gotten another book read, except I decided to binge the Daisy Jones and the Six series on Prime.
Yeah.
So I did that instead of reading another book. So anyway, so my average star rating was 4.4 for this month. So I am extremely pleased with my reading.
As you should be.
Yes, I think so.
It was a good month.
It was a very good month. I enjoyed a lot of what I read.
So for me, for March, I read 3 books, but I'm going to talk about 4 because there's one in there that I DNF'd. Not because I didn't like it. I'll get to that later as to why I DNF'd it.
Intriguing.
Yeah. So, out of the 4 books, I had 2 3-stars and 1 4-star, and then the DNF. And so that gave me an average rating of 3.3 stars, which pretty meh, which is how my reading year has been going for every month thus far. It's fine, we'll get there. There was a total of 1,085 pages, so averaged out to 362 pages. My shortest book was How High We Go in the Dark, and the longest book I read was Spinning Silver.
So of my 5, 1 was science fiction, 3 were fantasy, and 1, I don't really know what to call it. Speculative, sort of. You could almost call it fantasy. Christian literature. Something like that. I'll talk about it when we get there. So, one of those. Those are my genres.
Okay. And for my 4, I had sci-fi, fantasy, a YA horror, and then a nonfiction / self-help book, which is the one I did DNF. Yeah.
Again, intriguing.
Yeah. The book I DNF'd was Single on Purpose. So I bought this book on Amazon just because of the title, Single on Purpose, because that's me. And I honestly thought that it would be like a really good read. Like I kind of thought that it would kind of like give me a new perspective on the whole like being single aspect. And I think that it's a really good book, but I think it's a good book for somebody who is struggling with being single and is someone who's like really wanting to no longer be single and struggling a lot with self-hate and like I don't think I'm good enough to be with somebody kind of a situation.
Yeah.
And for me personally, like it just didn't really apply to me in that way because I'm not like out looking to get into a relationship. I'm not like struggling with not being in one. So I just didn't feel like I related to it. But it is like a really well written book. So I mean, I definitely recommend it if you are someone who's newly single or struggling with that in any way. Like, it's great. Great book. So, I did not DNF it because I didn't like it. I just DNF'd it because it didn't apply to me. So,
There you go.
yeah. But
So not a bad DNF.
not a bad DNF, which is rare, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, just wrong time. Maybe.
It's alright.
It's fine. It's a great book for other people. My other 3 books that I read were Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, which I already talked about in length in our blind date with a book video, so not going to be talking more about that, about this one in this video. This is a book Kelly picked out for me to read, so yeah, it's one of her favorites. Ended up not being a favorite of mine, and I gave it 3 stars, so it's pretty meh read, but like I still enjoyed it, so
Better than a DNF.
better than a DNF. That is true. That is true. Another one of the books that I read was How High We Go in the Dark, which was our book club book for the month of March. So you can go check out our live book club discussion to go and hear my thoughts on this one as well. But again, this was another 3-star read for me. Pretty meh, but definitely very beautifully written book. And definitely one that, even though I didn't love it, I still think that it's one I would recommend to people to read. Like, it's good. And I probably will end up reading it again at some point. Like, I think that there's a lot that you can gain from a second read through of this book, for sure. Because it's it's a lot to digest, which I didn't say in our live, but it's a lot.
It is.
So, yeah. Not what you expect either.
Yeah,
so,
it's not.
Definitely a good one. And then the final book is actually
Also came from me.
It did. And it was
I ruled your reading month.
You did. And it was because it was also in your spooky book club,
Rex.
the Spooky Rex video. So
which is why she had it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yep. Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendari Blake. I loved this book so much. I only gave it 4 stars because there were some things that I didn't really, I didn't care for too much, or I thought that they could have done better. I kind of think it might just because it's a YA horror. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm inching out of the YA group, and so YA books are starting to become like how they are for you.
I know where you're at.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
especially with like horrors and thrillers and stuff like that, like I am definitely an adult horror, adult thriller reader, so I don't know, but I still really enjoyed this so much. And I remember you saying in the Spooky Rex how Cass is kind of like a young Dean Winchester.
Is a teenage Dean Winchester.
Oh, 100%.
Isn't he?
I got that.
I told you.
Oh, and it just made me love this book and his character so much more, because obviously Dean Winchester is ideal man. Yeah.
I think
so
what
good.
I also liked about this, because I don't typically like YA books, it's a select few I do, but not typically, was that while there was a little bit of angst in there, it's not angsty.
No.
It hits the ghost story hard, which I appreciated, and the little extras, you know, the group of friends, it's very well done, and it doesn't feel too young, and it feels very real without having all of the drama
Yeah.
So that's what I appreciated about it.
It was so good. Like
It was very good.
I read this book very fast. Like any chance I had to sit down and read, I was reading it. So I loved it. I think I finished it in 2 days, which for me, even though like it's not a long book, it's like 300 pages. But still, since I am fairly busy, it takes me a while to read books. So the fact I read this book in 2 days, it's pretty, must mean it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing is red.
Yeah.
Oh,
Red tinted print.
red
It's
tinted.
so cool. I didn't
love
look
this
to
book.
see the sequel, if it does or not. Or if it was just the version I had. It is too.
It is.
It is.
It is.
We just found out it's a duology, so I ordered the second book too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'll probably be taking on. So
Yeah.
anyway, highly recommend this for sure. 4 stars.
So my 5 books, also How High We Go in the Dark, which was the book club book, as Amy just said. You can go see that video. Another one was my blind date that Amy picked for me, which was Children of Blood and Bone, which I don't have my physical copy of, but that's the one. That was a meh for me. It was very YA. Which was part of it. But yes, if you want to hear all of those random thoughts on that, you can definitely go and check that out. I also got Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Basically, this was a book about a woman scholar, early 1900s, who is writing an encyclopedia of fairies. And so she does like field study all over the world and writes it. And anyway, she has come to this northern country. It's never really specified, but it's kind of like Norway, Iceland kind of place to study these fairies and the general trouble that she gets into along the way. I basically picked this up because, the premise sounded really cool, but also because when I read Legends and Lattes and really didn't enjoy it that much, I thought, what is the deal with this cozy fantasy stuff? And this is something that's considered cozy fantasy. So I went into it. I gave this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it so much. I can see how people don't, though, because the beginning is very slow. There's a lot of time spent on her scholarly process, a lot of time spent on her settling into this northern community, the mistakes that she makes. There's also a lot of talk about that Emily is supposed to be autistic, like high functioning autistic. And while I could see, and basically they mark the book down because they don't treat an autistic character very well. And while I can see that, I did not think Emily was autistic, because she's very socially awkward, and I'm very socially awkward. And I could see myself in Emily, and I am not on the spectrum in any way. I'm just terrible awkward in social situations. And I could see me in her. So I don't necessarily think that the characteristics that they were assigning to Emily had to be autistic in that fashion. And so that did not bother me at all. But it was very much a first book effort. There were some problems with it that marked it down for me just a little bit. But it certainly wasn't because of the writing, and certainly wasn't the slow start, because I enjoyed all of that quite a bit. There was just some stuff at the end that kind of let me down. But, I mean, your mileage at all. I would recommend this for anybody who likes fairy stories, stories about the fae. These are very much the fae, not your not sexy fairies. These are very much the cruel, inhuman sort of things, except for one person fairy. Because, of course, except for one. And that was one of the reasons that I marked it down, too. But anyway, if you like the original fairy tales and stuff, you check this out, because you might like that one, too.
Okay, so our camera battery died, so now we're on my phone.
Okay, so, yeah. After that slight delay, here we go. And I'm going to have to remember where to look on the camera. I have a hard time with that. Okay, so continuing in my cozy fantasy exploration, I read A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. This is a children's book, actually. kind of on that verge between, it's kind of middle grade. It's it's labeled as all kinds of different things, but it is really good. It's a little dark for what I might think of for a children's book, but then again, Neil Gaiman's Graveyard Book was a bit on the dark side too. So I would say that it's a fairly long for a kid's book. So it's definitely not like children, like young children. I would say middle grade probably, stretching into young adult. But anyway, Mona is a sort of wizard. The only magic that she can perform is with baking. So like with dough, she can encourage bread not to burn. She can make stale bread fresh again, or she can make fresh bread stale. There's a really funny part in here where she makes bread go stale while it's in somebody's mouth. It's kind of funny. But give the little guy down here, one of the things that she does for her customers, like on a daily basis, is they make gingerbread men, and she'll make the gingerbread men dance and do like this little daily performance. Okay, so this one little gingerbread man, because something happens and she has to shove a lot of magic into him, so he like never goes bad. He's like stays animated and develops this little personality. And I love him. It was so fun to read about. So anyway, Mona has this magic, but it only works with baking. So she works in a bakery, obviously. And but throughout the city, there's all kinds of wizards like her. And then there's the great wizards, like the war wizards or the battle wizards that they call them, the ones that can fling lightning strikes and things like that. So she doesn't think much of her magic, really. It's just bread. What can you do with just bread? But anyway, Mona arrives at work one morning and there is a dead body in her kitchen. And so this starts off the whole story. At one point, Mona gets accused of the murder, and so she gets drawn into like this conspiracy against their kingdom. So there's that. There's people that are trying to kill off the minor wizards in the city. There's outside forces that are wanting to take over her city, and all of these things going on. And Mona is a 14-year-old girl just trying to keep her head afloat after she's been accused of this murder and basically kind of goes on the run for a while. So it's really cute. It really has kind of some wacky situations that you would only expect to find really in a middle grade book, because that's where it just works beautifully. It's a little gritty too. Like at one point, they're like having to crawl up a garderobe tunnel. So a garderobe is like an indoor bathroom that only rich people have. But it sits on top of a shaft that goes directly down into the sewer or whatever. And they're having to climb up this in order to break in. She doesn't spare the details, let me tell you. But it's done. I mean, it's really dark stuff sometimes, but it's done with that kind of lighter tone to it. And the little gingerbread man just makes everything for me. I love it. And then she has kind of this mentor sort of in this other wizard that named Molly, that storyline just killed me too, and I love it. And then she has this other little sidekick who's a 10-year-old boy, and he's so cute, little cheeky little bastard. But anyway, I loved this book. 5 stars, easy. It was my first read from T. Kingfisher, and I'm so definitely gonna read. I've got several of her books on my shelf. I just hadn't done it yet, and yes, I would call this fantasy, no doubt. And it is very cozy. So, in a way. So, anyway, I loved it. Loved it, if you couldn't tell. The last one, because I'm Catholic, and this is the Lent season for us. Or it was. You're seeing this on Easter. It was the Lent season. And so, kind of because of that, I wanted to read something I probably could done something a little bit different than this. But I reread C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters. And this is done, as you could tell, a series of letters from the demon Screwtape to his demon nephew, Wormwood. And Screwtape is kind of a high-ranking demon, and his nephew, Wormwood, is just getting started. So it's kind of a mentor sort of deal, where Screwtape is trying to advise him on how to corrupt this human. And anyway, it's, if you want to read it just straight up like a fantasy sort of funny thing, you can. And it's funny. It's really funny. Just the way that they twist everything, like, you know, in a Christian sense, it's our Lord above. Well, he talks about being a servant of his Lord below. You know, just things like that. Any reference to God is said as the enemy. So it's kind of, you know, don't let the enemy snatch this one from under your nose. But you can read so much deeper into it because through this series of letters, it's Screwtape addressing how Wormwood should go about corrupting this human and all of the different things that this human does that can be corrupted and the ways they can go about it. But when they talk about the things that this human does, I mean, it's just such a series of a study on humanity. And if you can't see yourself in at least one of these letters, I don't know that you're human. Because reading through it, I was like, oh, yeah, that could be me. Oh, yeah, that could be me. And as C.S. Lewis does, you know, he was Catholic, and of course, this everybody knows Narnia books are an allegory on Christianity. And so, but he's not heavy-handed with it. It's not, you know, it's not an in-your-face, down-your-throat sort of thing. So, and I think it's the same with here. You know, if you read it as such, there is a leaning in towards Christianity in the letters. But it's not overwhelming. So you can, if you are not of that persuasion and you don't care for like Christian writings, you probably could still read this and you have a just good time with it. Because I do think, like I said, his musings in these letters are very human. And if nothing else, just the way Screwtape gets so frustrated with Wormwood and blows up, it'll make you giggle. So anyway, I enjoyed this. It was a 5-star read my first time around, and it still is a 5-star read. It's just, it can be very enlightening if you're going through a period where you kind of want to examine your own life and your own behaviors and your own tendencies, as we tend to do, those of us of a Christian leaning, we tend to do during Lent. I think it's a good Lenten book. Because like I said, if you don't see yourself in one of your own failings in one of these letters, I'm just not sure you're human. So anyway, that was my last one. That was it. I enjoyed it.
All right, so for authors, for me in the month of March, all of them were new to me. I never read a book from any of them before. I had only, well, I guess I've heard of Naomi Novik and Kendari Blake before, so I'd heard of them, but I'd never read anything from them. There were no repeat authors, so yeah,
There you go.
all new to me. And I will be reading from Kendari Blake again for sure, and I will probably be giving Naomi Novik another chance. Not that she messed up her first chance, but like I'll be reading from her again.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Okay. Of my 5, one, I don't know, you could call it a repeat. I just reread. But C.S. Lewis. I had obviously, as probably everybody did, anybody who's a reader, read the Narnia books growing up. And I do have quite a few of his other books. He did write several other books just kind of like this, very short, just little, almost just like essays. So I have a lot of other ones of those to read. So I will read from him again. The other 4 were new to me. I will read T. Kingfisher again. I will read, there's going to be a sequel to Heather Fawcett's Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I will read that one. I'll pick that up again. Who did I forget? Oh, Sequoia Nagamatsu, who wrote How High We Go in the Dark. Yeah. I'll read from him again. Definitely. Tomi Adeyemi. I don't know. Maybe. I did not care for Children of Blood and Bone. I gave it 3 stars. It was kind of meh. Again, you can see that video. But she is an incredible writer. So while this story was not necessarily to my taste, I did say that if she wrote maybe something in the adult variety, I would probably read that. So I can't say I would not read from her again, but I'm not going to read the sequel to that book. I'm not going to go on in that series, but I might try something else. So that's it.
Yeah, that's all our stats for March. We ran through it kind of quick, but
yeah.
Hey, it works.
There we go.
Yeah. So, if you guys enjoyed watching this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and also be sure to let us know all of your reading stats down in the comments.
What did you read for March?
I'd love to hear about what you guys have read, are reading, authors that you've been loving, and any of that.
Did you read any of our books too?
Yeah.
Or have you? What did you think of them?
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah. And go check out those other videos.
Yeah, all of the ones we mentioned, and then all of our other book-related videos, and just, you know what? Just go and hit the subscribe button. Just do it, because then it'll all be right there for you, easy to find, and you can also see all of our upcoming book videos on Sundays. So,
yes, there you go. And you can also go and check out all the other content, because Amy doesn't do just book stuff. Yeah, she has all kinds of stuff on her channel, from home decor to right now she's doing a series on deep cleaning her entire house and organizing. And she's got travel videos up, and plus you can find links to her blog as well, so which has a whole bunch more stuff on it. So much so much stuff. So much. So yeah, be sure and check all that out too. Yeah. Do it. You know you wanna. Join us here every Sunday-ish, around 3-ish. And see what we have coming up next, because we haven't planned it yet, so we don't even know.
Yeah, woo!
So join us next week to see what we decided to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
That is all for the stats, though.
Yeah, so hope you enjoyed watching, and I'm Amy.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are
the Everyday Epic.
We'll see y'all in the next one.